for at least one pure Brahmin to accompany you. Prabhu ke Nijo Shongi Kanno Nalaiba Ek Janinile Anera Mani Dukka Hoiba. The Lord said, I shall not take any of my associates with me, because if I choose someone, all the others will be unhappy. Nutan Shongi Haibek Snigdo Jondraman Aiti Jabi Pai Tobe Loi Ekojan. Such a person must be a new man, and he must have a peaceful mind. If I can obtain such a man, I shall agree to take him with me. Purport. Formerly, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to South India, a Brahmin named Kala Krishnadas went with him. Kala Krishnadas fell victim to a woman, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to take the trouble to free him from the clutches of the gypsies. Therefore, the Lord here says that he wants a new man who is peaceful in mind. One whose mind is not peaceful is agitated by certain drives, especially sex desire, even though he be in the company of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Such a man will become a victim of women and will fall down even in the company of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maya is so strong that unless one is determined not to fall victim, even the Supreme Lord cannot give protection. The Supreme Lord and his representative always want to give protection, but a person must take advantage of their personal contact. If one thinks that the Supreme Lord or his representative is an ordinary man, he will certainly fall down. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not want a person like Kala Krishna Das to accompany him. He wanted someone who was determined, who had a peaceful mind, and who was not agitated by ulterior motives. Verse 15. Sarukhe E Balabhadra Bhattacharya Thumate Shusnigda Bodo Pandit Sadhu Arja. Srup Damodar then said, Here is Balabhadra Bhattacharya, who has great love for you. He is an honest, learned scholar, and he is advanced in spiritual consciousness. Purport. Srup Damodar there immediately pointed out a new Brahmin named Balabhadra Bhattacharya. Srup Damodar had studied this person very thoroughly and had seen that he had great love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Not only did he love the Lord, but he was also learned and honest. He was not duplicitous, and he was advanced in Krishna consciousness. According to a Bengali proverb, Ati Bhakti Chorera Lakhan, too much devotion is a symptom of a thief. A person who assumes himself to be a great devotee, but mentally is thinking of something else, is duplicitous. One who is not duplicitous is called sadhu. Srup Damodar immediately pointed out that Balabhadra Bhattacharya was quite fit to accompany the Lord, because he was a learned scholar and was simple and had great love for Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was also advanced in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, he was considered appropriate for accompanying the Lord as a personal servant. The words snigdha, very peaceful, and susnigdha, affectionate, are used in verses 14 and 15 respectively, and they are also found in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:18. Bruya snigdosha shishasya guravo guhyang apyuta. Quote, a disciple whose actual love for his spiritual master is endowed by the blessings of the spiritual master with all confidential knowledge, unquote. Srila Sridhar Swami has commented that the word snigdhasya means prem vata. The word prem vata indicates that one has great love for his spiritual master. Text 16. Pratame tomashange oila gauda hoite inhar icha achi sarvatirtha karite. In the beginning, he came with you from Bengal. It is his desire to visit and see all the holy places of pilgrimage. So that would also satisfy the Lord because of the personal qualities of Balabhadra Bhattacharya, but simultaneously fulfill the Bhattacharya's desire to see the famous places of pilgrimage. because he was from Bengal, so he wouldn't have maybe been familiar with them in central India. Inhar sange achi vipra ekobritya, inho bhakti koribena seva vikakritya. In addition, you may take another Brahmin who will act as a servant en route and make arrangements for your food. Inhare sange loha jodi shabar hoy shuk panabhati joite tomar nohibe konna duk. If you can also take him with you, we will be very happy. If 2 people go with you through the jungle, there will certainly be no difficulty or inconvenience. So he's very, Sripad Damodar Goswami, being a very confidential servant and friend of the Lord, was very concerned for his safety going to this very dangerous place, which would be, of course, much more dangerous in those days. No proper roads through the jungle, no, police force or anything.
Wild animals as well.
Wild animals, dacoits, robbers, etc. So, as according to the saying, give someone an inch, they'll take a mile. So they're using the Lord's own statement that if these devotees were happy, then he would be happy. So using that transcendental, not trickery, transcendental, device, let's say. He said to the Lord, okay, if you take one Balabhadracharya and another one as well, because, one Balabhadracharya would be cooking and carrying the Lord's things, but also another one, he would be more like kind of a general servant and, scouting ahead, going to the villages, checking things out, like this kind of a way. So he says, the other Brahmin can carry your cloth and water pot, the second one, and Balabhadra Bhattacharya will collect alms and cook for you. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the request of Sripad Damodar Pandit and agreed to take Balabhadra Bhattacharya with him. On the previous night, the Lord had visited Lord Jagannath and taken his permission. Now near the end of the night, the Lord got up and started immediately. He was not seen by others. Because the Lord had departed, the devotees, unable to see him early in the morning, began to search for him with great anxiety. While all the devotees were searching for the Lord, Sripad Damodar restrained them. Then everyone fell silent, knowing the mind of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Sripad Damodar was like the leader, so they all respected him. So he is very close, with the Lord. The Lord abandoned walking on the well-known public road and went instead along a bypass. He thus kept the city of Katak on his right as he entered the forest. When the Lord passed through the solitary forest, chanting the holy name of Krishna, the tigers and elephants, seeing him, gave way. When the Lord passed through the jungle in great ecstasy, packs of tigers, elephants, rhinoceros and boars came, and the Lord passed right through them. Doesn't mean he passed through them like a ghost. That means they gave way to him, gave him passage. Balabhadra Bhattacharya was very much afraid to see them, but by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's influence, all the animals stood to one side. That reminds me when Srila Govinda Maharaj was playing and wrestling with the buffalo, with big, very dangerous horns, and a big muscular animal. And Srila Guru Maharaj was standing on the veranda and quite concerned, saying, "Oh, Gorendu, don't play like a very dangerous, very dangerous." And Govinda Maharaj, it's Gorendu Brahmachari then, "Oh, no problem, Maharaj, no problem for him." The connection with the animals, possibly because of his connection with Lord Shiva, who's Pashupati, Lord of the... Pashu means like animals, but meaning generally under human, subhuman species. whether it be animals, ghosts, different entities.
Like lower consciousness.
Yeah.
That less.
Haven't been fortunate to take the human birth, or have had a human birth and have also regressed. But Lord Shiva is very merciful on these types. One day a tiger was lying on the path, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, walking along the path in ecstatic love, touched the tiger with his feet. Prabhu ke kaha Krishna, Vyagra uthil Krishna Krishna kahi Vagra nachite logila. The Lord said, chant the holy name of Krishna. The tiger immediately got up and began to dance and to chant Krishna Krishna. The Lord in a state of ecstasy, of course. That's not normal or possible for a normal human being to, touch a tiger with your feet and say, chant Hare Krishna. So it's not really advisable for anyone else to imitate that. Another day, while the Lord was bathing in a river, a herd of maddened elephants came there to drink water. While the Lord was bathing and murmuring the Gayatri mantra, the elephants came before him. The Lord immediately splashed water on the elephants and asked them to chant the name of Krishna.
Back then, there were elephants is it in Bengal? Yes.
No, it's in Andhra Pradesh, I believe, in the centre of India. Jungle's still there, or part of it.
So many things changed in 500 years. It's incredible.
The elephants whose bodies were touched by the water splashed by the Lord began to chant Krishna, Krishna, and dance and sing in ecstasy. Some of the elephants fell to the ground and some screamed in ecstasy. Seeing this, Balabhadra Bhattacharya was completely astonished. Sometimes the Lord chanted very loudly while passing through the jungle. Hearing his sweet voice, all the does came near him. Hearing the Lord's great vibration, all the does followed him left and right. While reciting a verse with great curiosity, the Lord patted them. And the verse he recited was from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-11, spoken by the gopis of Vrindavan. Dhanya shmamutta matayo pihorinya ita yananda nandanam upatta vichitra vesham akanya venu ranitang shaha krishna sara pujang dadur virachitam pranaya valokai. Blessed are all these foolish deer, because they've approached Maharaj Nanda's son, who is gorgeously dressed and playing on his flute. Indeed, both the does and the bucks worship the Lord with looks of love and affection. Foolish deer doesn't really mean they're just stupid deer. It means, they're mute animals. Yeah, like that. While the Lord was passing through the jungle, 5 or 7 tigers came. Joining the deer, the tigers began to follow the Lord. Seeing the tigers and deer following him, the Lord immediately remembered the land of Vrindavan. He then began to recite a verse describing the transcendental quality of Vrindavan. Jottanai sharga durvara shahashan nimragaidaya mittan niva chitavasha druttarut tashanadikam. Vrindavan is the transcendental abode of the Lord. There is no hunger, anger or thirst there. Though naturally inimical, human beings and fierce animals live together there in transcendental friendship. There's also in the Bible, it says, the lion shall lie down with the lamb, and the restoration of the earth to its previous state of innocence before the fall of Adam and Eve. Yeah. Krishna Krishna kaha kori Prabhu joy bolila, Krishna koi vagra mriga nachite logila. When the Lord said, chant Krishna, Krishna, the tigers and deer began to chant Krishna and dance. When all the tigers and does danced and jumped, Balabhadra Bhattacharya saw them and was struck with wonder. Indeed, the tigers and deer began to embrace one another, and touching mouths they began to kiss. When the Lord saw all this fun, he began to smile. Finally, he left the animals and continued on his way. Various birds, including the peacocks, saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and began to follow him, chanting and dancing. They were all maddened by the holy name of Krishna. Haribol Bali Prabhu Kari Uchadvani, Brikko Lata Prapulita Se Dhvani Shuni. When the Lord loudly chanted, Haribol, the trees and creepers became jubilant to hear him. Purport: the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is so powerful that it can even penetrate the ears of trees and creepers, what to speak of those of animals and human beings. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once asked Haridas Thakur how trees and plants could be delivered, and Haridas Thakur replied that the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra would benefit not only trees and plants, but insects and all other living beings. One should therefore not be disturbed by the loud chanting of Hare Krishna, for it is beneficial not only to the chanter, but to everyone who gets an opportunity to hear. Verse 46. Thus all living entities in the forest of Jharkhand, some moving and some standing still, became maddened by hearing the holy name of Lord Krishna, vibrated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he mentions here in the purple, Srila Swami Maharaj, about the forest of Jharkhand, including various provinces, Attagada, Dhenna Karnala, Angul, Lahar, Kijanjhada, Bamada, Bonai, Gangapur, Chotanagapur, Yashapur, and Saraguja. So obviously it's quite a vast tract of land. And it's covered also not just with jungles, with mountains also. Je Gramadiya Jana Johan Korina Stiti, Se Saba Gramera Loker Hoy Prem Bhakti. In all the villages through which the Lord passed, and in all the places he rested on his journey, everyone was purified and awakened to ecstatic love of God. When someone heard the chanting of the holy name from the mouth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and someone else heard this chanting from that second person, and someone again heard this chanting from the third person, everyone in all countries became a Vaishnava through such disciplic succession. Thus everyone chanted the holy name of Krishna and Hari, and they danced, cried, and smiled.
Maharaj was saying that the whole villages were going crazy. As soon as they heard it, they all went completely off their minds. Rolling, crying, laughing, screaming. So it was like a pandemic, but spiritual.
Yes. And he mentions in the commentary here, Swami Maharaj, this is the real disciplic succession. The actual, it's vibration. And the Shruti, as was traditionally, the Vedas were given from teacher to disciple, and this way came down in disciplic succession. So the real parampara means that. Pure vibration, and it's heard by somebody, then they give it to somebody else, and that this continues, and they all become devotees. See? So that's the real thing. And the formality of the process of Diksha, which has been established by the Lord in the Vedas, is the means through which that transcendental current is received. Just like electricity can actually strike anyone from out of the atmosphere, like a lightning bolt. But generally speaking, there's an arrangement of where you have the the thing on the top of the building. What do you call that?
Like special.
Yeah. So there's an arrangement of material arrangement, so-called material arrangement of wires and so on, that through which the actual substance is carried, connected. So this is the thing, the way. But the Lord did not always manifest his ecstasy. Being afraid of a great assembly of people, the Lord kept his ecstasy concealed. Although the Lord did not manifest his natural ecstatic love, everyone became a pure devotee simply by seeing and hearing him.
What does it mean, concealed? He kept his ecstasy concealed?
It means he didn't manifest it, he didn't show it. Like, the symptoms. They call Ashta Sattvika Bhav, 11 symptoms.
But not all
Or 8
the time.
symptoms. Pardon?
Not all the time, it just means...
Yes, sometimes he concealed them, sometimes he showed them.
Okay, and his hands.
Not even to that degree. Yeah, that was when all the Ashta Sattvika Bhav manifesting simultaneously had that effect on the physical form to cause that distension or distortion, larger, smaller, like that. But sometimes some of the symptoms will be manifested, like laughing, crying, falling on the ground, fainting,
And we're saying that certain
etc.
emotions which cannot be expressed simultaneously were expressed simultaneously in those moments.
Well, yes, it's unique. We understand it to be unique in the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It seems it's the only example of any person in history who's manifested simultaneously all of these symptoms. But normally some of them are manifested. We see that in other faith traditions as well. Sometimes crying, fainting, other things, But so obviously the Lord's the purity of his chanting was able to make the animals chant Hare Krishna. So that is not an ordinary thing. It means that when we're saying animal, if we're talking about the Atma, the soul, inside the body of the tiger, the deer, the boar, the rhinoceros, etc. So it means that the purity of his chanting and intensity was able to pierce through the coverings, those very tamasic coverings, animal body coverings, and enter the Atma, the soul, and awaken the soul. And then the soul, Jiva Surup Hoy, Krishna Nityadas, right? Soul awakens and chanting Hare Krishna. Why not?
Still being in the animal
We're still being in the animal body, but only possible, of course, for the Lord. But we see sometimes in small ways, animals' influence. St. Francis of Assisi was supposedly able to connect with animals and birds. The famous example when the birds all lined up and they folded their wings and they put their head down, very respectfully listening. It's called the Sermon to the Birds. And in fact, he said in this story, which is told in the Little Flowers of St. Francis, is a collection of anecdotes. They may or may not be legendary, but he was preaching to some people, and the birds were flittering around and making a lot of noise, So he said, "Don't be quiet, don't make so much noise." And then they all lined up, very quiet, folded their wings and listening. And after that, they went away again. And also taming the wolf in Gubbio, in the town of Gubbio. And Srila Prabhupada said he had Paramatma realization, and that was therefore he was able to connect with them through Paramatma and influence. So that was there also in a small way.
This is the way they tested saints in ancient times. They used to put them in a hole with hungry animals. And they saw if it's a saint, then the animal won't eat it. If it's not a saint,
yes.
it will be eaten. Like that. A bit evil, but...
Yes, it's very dangerous, of course. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not manifest his natural ecstatic love, everyone became a pure devotee simply by seeing and hearing him. So just by the presence of his personality and his being, they became pure devotees that way. Even if when he's not manifesting any extraordinary symptoms of ecstasy and so on. And he comments here, by hearing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the Parampara system, one can be purified. Therefore, in this verse it is said, Tatapi Tandra Darshan Shravana Prabhave. It's not that everyone is able to see Krishna or Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu physically, but if one hears about him through books like Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and through the Parampara system of pure Vaishnavas, there's no difficulty in becoming a pure Vaishnava, free from mundane desires and personal motivations. Anyabilasita shunyam gyan karma anabritam anukulena krishna nushilanam bhaktir uttama. That's the definition of a pure Vaishnava given by Rupa Goswami. Free from mundane desires and personal motivations, and with the desire to serve Krishna for his satisfaction. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally toured Bengal, East Bengal, Orissa, and the southern countries, and he delivered all kinds of people by spreading Krishna consciousness. When the Lord came to Jharkhand on his way to Mathura, he found that the people there were almost uncivilized and were devoid of God consciousness. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave even the Beals an opportunity to chant the holy name and come to the platform of ecstatic love. Beals means like aboriginals or jungle dwellers, those kind of races. So they were also Hare Krishna. Dhanavad. And they were also delivered. Thus he delivered all of them. Who has the power to understand the transcendental pastimes of the Lord? And he writes in the commentary here, as evidence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, we are experiencing that the people of Africa are taking to Krishna consciousness, chanting and dancing and taking prasadam like other Vaishnavas. This is all due to the power of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who can understand how his potency is working all over the world? Text 55. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed through the Jharkhand forest, he took it for granted that it was Vrindavan. When he passed over the hills, he took it for granted that they were Govardhan. Similarly, whenever the Lord saw a river, he immediately accepted it as the river Jamuna. Thus, while in the forest, he was filled with great ecstatic love, and he danced and fell down crying. Along the way, Balabhadra Bhattacharya collected all kinds of spinach, roots and fruit whenever possible. Whenever the Lord visited a village, a few Brahmins, 5 or 7, would come and extend invitations to the Lord. Some people would bring grains and deliver them to Balabhadra Bhattacharya. Others would bring milk and yogurt, and still others would bring ghee and sugar. In some villages there were no Brahmins. Nonetheless, devotees born in non-Brahmin families came and extended invitations to Balabhadra Bhattacharya. Balabhadra Bhattacharya used to cook all kinds of vegetables gathered from the forest. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased to accept these preparations. Balabhadra used to keep a stock of food grains that would last from 2 to 4 days. Where there were no people, he would cook the grain and prepare vegetables, spinach, roots and fruits collected from the forest. The Lord was always very happy to eat these forest vegetables, and he was even happier when he had an opportunity to stay in a solitary place. So he liked that kind of simple fare, collected, very fresh, collected from the forest, fruits and roots. In Bengal they call it lafra, which generally is considered, according to food, according to diet and so forth, not a very high class of food, because they may be stalky and, everything all mixed up together, different types of the vegetables. But he liked that very much. He was a natural living in the forest. He was enjoying that very much because, wherever he went, so many people were following him, and that's why initially he said, I don't want anyone to come with me. I want to go on my own. And then, on the insistence of Sripad Damodar, he accepted first Balabhadra Bhattacharya and then one other servant also. So sometimes it's like that. After all, he is a sannyasi, So, and I remember there's a story also in the Gospels, right, where with Jesus, he was, always big crowds were coming when he was preaching. So one time he said to the disciples, they're on the bank, on the shore of the lake of Galilee, and he said, can you get a boat and we'll go over to the other side, where there's no people. So they did that, and they were going across to the other side, but the people all ran around the lake. So when they got there was a huge crowd there. So you couldn't escape, So, sometimes the people are coming and it's not always very easy. Like, even like Tridandi Maharaj, people touching his feet. He said, my feet aren't a marketplace, coming to get blessings and like that. So he's very happy to have the opportunity to be on his own in the forest, living very simply, bathing in the rivers and the waterfalls, and food is cooked on the wood, dead wood from the forest. That's also nice as well, because they say cow dung is best for cooking, then wood, third is gas, and the worst is electric. If you've got an electric cooker, because you can't really control it, isn't it? You just electric. And also electricity is some sort of demoniac energy. It's created by a demon called Maya Danava. Though it's a very useful thing in Kali Yuga, right? Naturally. The age of technology and so on. Balabhadra Bhattacharya was so affectionate to the Lord that he was rendering service just like a menial servant. His assistant Brahmin carried the water pot and garments. So he was also very happy to be in the jungle, because in normal society, probably in the towns and villages, the Brahmins showed so much respect and all that kind of thing. But here he was able just to be very simple and serve the Lord, just like a menial servant. He's very happy to do that. The Lord used to bathe 3 times a day in the warm water of the waterfalls. He also used to heat himself morning and evening with a fire made with the limitless wood. This warm water in the waterfalls, I actually experienced that when I was preaching in New Zealand a long time ago, and we went in the forest, and they have these sulphur springs where it comes up through the ground, and it's hot, it's heating the water up. So there was one occasion we were in the middle of this forest at night, and we were taking a bath under this waterfall. It was literally hot, like a hot shower coming off the rocks, It's like, meanwhile, outside it's cold. It wasn't freezing, but cold at night, and the stars, everything. It's quite extraordinary, yeah. while travelling in a secluded forest and feeling very happy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made the following statement. Shun Bhattacharya, Ami Gelana Bahudesh, Bonno Pate, Dukkera Kahan, Nahi Pailesh. My dear Bhattacharya, I've travelled very far through the forest, and I've not even slightly received any trouble. He's always saying in Bengali, if you hear them speaking, they say shun. So you've probably heard the expression nirvishesh shunyavadi paschatya desha tarine. You know, in the pranam mantra, Srila Swami Maharaj, or the ISKCON one they use. So the generally shunyavadi means avoidist, and a nirvishesh shunyavad, similar. So, you know, shun there, in that context, means to make everything void, like nirvana. But in the language, when they speak it in Bengali, they say shun, means it can mean like stop or be quiet. You know, be quiet because I want to say something. Say shun, you see, or it means like clear everything. Just make a fresh plate. And so here Mahaprabhu says, shun Bhattacharya, I want to tell you something. Amigelana bahudesh fanabhate dukera kahan nahi pailesh. I've travelled very far through the forest, and I've not even slightly received any trouble. Krishna is very merciful, especially to me. He has shown his mercy by bringing me on this path through the forest. Thus he's given me great pleasure. So the Lord is completely immersing himself in the role of a devotee, right? Because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's how come his chanting was able to make the tigers and deer dance and chant and embrace each other. So, but here he's saying, I haven't received any trouble going through the jungle. It's amazing. Krishna's been so merciful to me. But his potency was, of course. Before this, I decided to go to Vrindavan and on the way see my mother, the river Ganges, and other devotees once again. Bhaktagana Shange Obosya Koriba Milan, Bhaktagani Shange Lana Joba Vrindavan. I thought that once again I would see and meet all the devotees and take them with me to Vrindavan. Eta Bhavi Gauda Deshe Korilan Gaman, Mata Ganga Bhakti Deki, Shuki Hailaman. Thus I went to Bengal and I was very happy to see my mother, the river Ganges, and the devotees. However, when I started for Vrindavan, many thousands and millions of people gathered and began to go with me. Thus I was going to Vrindavan with a big crowd, but through the mouth of Sanatan, Krishna taught me a lesson. Thus, by making some impediment, he has brought me on a path through the forest to Vrindavan. What was the lesson that he was taught through the mouth of Sanatan? Do you know?
It was that Sanatan had it, because Mahaprabhu was planning to go to Vrindavan, right?
Right.
And he reached Ramkelli and he met Rupa and Sanatan there, and then, so which is like the border of Bengal. And then Sanatan advised him, you know, you shouldn't go to Vrindavan with this big crowd.
Oh.
You know, and one of the principal reasons was just that it would attract too much attention. It could get Mahaprabhu in trouble with the Muslim government.
Right.
So Sanatan advised him, you know, don't go with this big group. It's better to go quietly.
Oh, okay.
And so then the Mahaprabhu didn't reply at the time, but then later he reflected.
Yes.
That what Sanatan said was actually Krishna's.
Right. So now he's very happy that it was the right time for him to do this, and Krishna's mercy. Krishna is an ocean of mercy. He is especially merciful to the poor and fallen. Without his mercy, there's no possibility of happiness. So there you are. You can't get any real happiness without the mercy of Krishna. You know, from anything else, any type of sensory gratification, mental satisfaction. It's something, right? Because in the shadow, it seems like in the shadow there's also some kind of reality, like Maya, the Chaya Shakti, the shadow potency, but it's, after all, it is the shadow of the reality. So in the shadow there's also some kind of semblance of the thing, but it's like they say it's like a reflection in the water. You know, it looks like the reality, but when you go to grasp it, it's no substance, just in the water. So the real happiness is only through Krishna's mercy. Yes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then embraced Bhattacharya and told him, "It is only by your kindness that I am now so happy." Teno kahin, Tumi Krishna, Tumi Doyamoy, Adhama Jiva Muni, More Hoila Shadoy. My dear Lord, you are Krishna himself, and therefore you are merciful. I am a fallen living entity, but you have bestowed a great favour upon me. Muni Char, Mori Tumi Shonge Lana Oila, Kripa Kari Mora Hati, Prabhu Bhikka Koila. Sir, I am most fallen, yet you have brought me with you. Showing great mercy, you've accepted food prepared by me. Adhama Kokere Koila Garuda Shaman, Swatantra Ishwar Tumi Swayam Bhagavan. You've made me your carrier Garuda, though I'm no better than a condemned crow. Thus, you are the independent personality of Godhead, the original Lord. And then you find inserted here in Chaitanya Charitamrita quotation from the Bhavata Dipika commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. Mukham karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande paramananda madhavam. Oh, that's slightly different. The other one is yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurun dinatarinam. Okay, similar meaning. Quote, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has the form of Satchit Anand Vigraha, transcendental bliss, knowledge and eternity. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him who turns the dumb into eloquent speakers and enables the lame to cross mountains. Such is the mercy of the Lord. In this way, Balabhadra Bhattacharya offered his prayers to the Lord. By rendering service to him in ecstatic love, he pacified the Lord's mind. Finally, the Lord arrived with great happiness at the holy place called Kashi, Benares, or Varanasi, or Benares in English. There he took his bath in the bathing ghat known as Manikarnika. Purport: Kashi is another name for Varanasi. It has been a place of pilgrimage since time immemorial. Two rivers named Asi and Varuna merge there. Manikarnika Ghat is famous because, according to the opinion of great personalities, a bejewelled earring fell there from the ear of Lord Vishnu. According to some, it fell from the ear of Lord Shiva. The word mani means jewel and karnika means from the ear. According to some, Lord Vishwanath is the great physician who cures the disease of material existence by delivering a person through the ear, which receives the vibration of the holy name of Lord Ram. Because of this holy place is called Manikarnika. It is said that there is no better place than where the Ganges river flows, and the bathing ghat known as Manikarnika is especially sanctified because it is very dear to Lord Vishwanath. In the Kashi Khanda it is said, Shangshari Chintamanir Attajashmat Tharakang Sajjana Kani Kayam Shivo Bitate Shashanta Kale Tadgiyate Sho Mani Kaniketi. According to this passage from the Kashi Khanda, one who gives up his body at Manikarnika is liberated simply by remembering Lord Shiva's name. Text 83. At that time, Tapan Mishra was taking his bath in the Ganges, and he was astonished to see the Lord there. Purve suni jachi Prabhu kajachino shonyas nishchoy korea hoila ritoye ulas. Tapan Mishra began to think, I've heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has accepted the renounced order. Thinking this, he became very jubilant within his heart. He then clasped the lotus feet of the Lord and began to cry. The Lord raised him up and embraced him. Tapan Mishra then took the Lord to visit the temple of Vishveshvara. Coming from there, they saw the lotus feet of Lord Bindu Madhav. With great pleasure, Tapan Mishra brought the Lord to his home and rendered service to him. Indeed, he began to dance, waving his cloth. He washed the lotus feet of the Lord, and afterwards he and his whole family drank the water. He also worshipped Balabhadra Bhattacharya and showed him respect.
Raj, Bindu Madhav, how do you, what is it? Is it the name of the Lord?
Yeah, there's okay, thank you. You caught me out there. I skipped over the purple on that one. But it says the Bindu Madhava temple is the oldest Vishnu temple in Varanasi. At present, this temple is known as Vaini Madhav, and it's situated on the banks of the Ganges. So it's giving the history of that. Bindu Madhav.
I
But
thought it was in Prayag. It's in Varanasi.
but there's a different Bindu Madhav temple, is it not? Or only one?
I don't know, because there's a description when Rupa Goswami meets the Lord that he sees him at the Bindu Madhava temple.
Okay.
Maybe it's another one.
But do you know the actual thing about the Bindu Madhav deity?
No, I don't know.
So Bindu means a thing, doesn't it? And Madhav is Krishna. Radha Madhav. When they tend to use the word Radha Madhav, it's sort of like, from what I've understood in the context, it seems to imply the opulence of Krishna. Well, of course, Krishna's opulence is sweetness, right? But yeah, so he's very opulent. Like all the opulence of Vaikuntha is contained within an atom of Vrindavan. You know, but in Vrindavan it's manifested as sweetness, not as Aishwarya or opulence in the way that we normally think of it. But so he was very fortunate. Tapan Mishra, he invited the Lord to take lunch at his home, and he had Balabhadra Bhattacharya cook. Purport: while at Varanasi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at the house of Tapan Mishra. Near Tapan Mishra's house was a bathing ghat known as Panchanadi Ghat. The Lord used to take his bath daily at this ghat, and he used to see the temple of Bindu Madhav. Then he would take his lunch at Tapan Mishra's house. Okay, I don't know, you could correct me on this, but Tapan Mishra is not a Brahmin, right? I don't think Mishra is. Oh no, it is, yeah, Jagannath Mishra. Yeah, okay.
He originally was from East Bengal.
Yeah, because Mahaprabhu's father is Jagannath Mishra, so yeah, okay. But he had Balabhadra Bhattacharya cook rather than cook himself or someone of his family. So when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his rest after lunch, the son of Tapan Mishra named Raghu for short, used to massage his legs. The remnants of food left by the Lord were taken by the whole family of Tapan Mishra. When news spread that the Lord had come, somebody came to see him.
Is this when Sanatan has
No, I'll give you a clue. Apparently he's the author of the Tulsi prayer. Tulsi prayer that we sing.
Oh, Chandrasekhar.
Yeah. Chandrasekhar came to see him. That's also a name of Shiva, because Lord Shiva has the moon on his head. Chandra, Shekhar is Shika, so the moon is on his head, Chandrasekhar. Chandrasekhar happened to be a friend of Tapan Mishra's, and he was long known to the Lord as his servant. He was a physician by caste, and by profession he was a clerk. At the time he was living in Varanasi. When Chandrasekhar came there, he fell down before the lotus feet of the Lord and began to cry. Standing up, the Lord embraced him out of his causeless mercy. Chandrasekhar kahe, Prabhu Bodha Kripa Koila Apane Oshya Prite Darshana Dila. Chandrasekhara said, "My dear Lord, you've bestowed your causeless mercy upon me because I'm your old servant. Indeed, you've come here personally to give me your audience. Due to my past deeds, I'm residing at Varanasi. But here I do not hear anything but the words Maya and Brahman." Oh, so he's saying, does that mean due to my past deeds, it means I am fortunate to live in Varanasi due to my past deeds. But here I'm just hearing these all Mayavadi talks. Does it mean that?
Well, he's saying he's unfortunate to be in Varanasi,
That's on.
right? Because it's the Mayavad capital.
Okay, it's just putting the conjunction there. But, yeah, okay.
Well, that's what I thought maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it might be.
At
Yeah.
that time, everyone was going there because that was considered the highest place, topmost. And he's saying, "Oh no, that's so."
Because there were no Vaishnavas there.
Yeah.
Oh. Ah, yes, you're right. It says in the commentary here, Chandrasekhara expressed great unhappiness as he informed the Lord that he was obliged to live at Benares due to his past misdeeds. So he was forced to come in association with Mayavadis. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. But, on the good side, Brahma Samhita says, Karmani nidatati kintucha bhakti bhajam. There's no karma attached to the past deeds or misdeeds of one in devotional service. A devotee is not subjected to karma phal, the effect of fruitive activity. Karma phal is applicable to karmis, not bhaktas. Okay, then there's quite intensively in this commentary, gets quite philosophical about different kinds of devotees, Nitya Siddha, Sadhan Siddha, Kripa Siddha. And he mentions there are 3 stages of fructification for sinful activity. At one stage one commits the sinful act. Before that the seed of this act exists, and before that there's ignorance whereby one commits the sin. So we say, they call it prarabdha karma, which is manifesting now in our life in the form of happiness and distress. Then aprarabdha, which is like it's going to be experienced in this life, but not yet. And then even before that is kuta, which is more in the seed form, and then bij is in the very seed form. And I think of this example like Shakespeare said, all this world is a stage and we are the actors, and we have our entrance and exits. So everyone in this world is like playing a role, some role. But it's not the Atma, it's not the soul, the Jivatma. It's Jiva Swarup Hoy Krishna and Nityadas, right? We're playing a role in this world, man, woman, black, white, Hindu, Christian, doctor, lawyer, housewife, mechanic, many things. So that's all a temporary dharma. Nimitta dharma is incidental or accidental dharma due to karma. It's not nitya dharma, which is sanatan dharma, Krishna consciousness. So like on the stage of life, you have the actors, but then you have, that's like the prarabdha karma being experienced now. It's going on, the show's going on, they're acting. But then you have the actors waiting in the wings, they're waiting for their cue. And the director says, okay, cue, you go on. Then they go on, and they do their one. That's like aprarabdha. But then you've got the ones, they're not even near the stage, they're maybe in the dressing room, getting ready, putting them, make on costumes, But then you've got ones even before that, they're not even anywhere near the theatre. They may be living somewhere else and calling a taxi, to come to the theatre. So it's different stages of fructification of karma. But all of it can be wiped out by the potency of the holy name, Shuddha Nam. Yes. Whereas in general yoga, through Ashtanga yoga, it can burn the plant, but the seed remains in the ground, and it can fructify again in the future if the conditions are such that it will, so even the seed has to be burnt up. And also I remember I think it's in Matthew's Gospel, Jesus said, unless the grain of wheat falls in the ground and dies, it cannot produce a plant or a harvest, So die, isn't it? Die to live. Okay. I'll just read a little bit more because it's coming to the time. Okay, so Chandrasekhara, he's speaking. There's no talk at Varanasi other than discussions on the 6 philosophical theses. Nonetheless, Tapan Mishra has been very kind to me, for he speaks about topics relating to Lord Krishna. So he would go around and see him, go around to his place, to his house, and they'd be talking Krishna consciousness, But as soon as you go out the door, everyone's talking about Brahman and Mayavad conception, which is Sarvanash. Maharaj said, if you hear from these Mayavad, but these are talking Paka Mayavadis, not just some New Agey people saying, we all become one in God or something like that. These are hardcore, you don't want to go near them, it's very dangerous. And Mayavadi Sangha is Sarvanash. Your devotional plant will be destroyed by that. So that's more dangerous than associating with materialists. Materialistic people, they can also become devotees, but they can change from being from exploitation to dedication. They can switch over. It's like other side of the coin, right? But it's the same coin. Coin means using the senses, using our mind, our senses, all our things. Okay, one is using it in the wrong way, negatively for exploitation, for self-use, and others is using it for the service of Krishna. So they can switch they turn over from one side to the other more easily by good association, devotee association. With Mayavadi, it's very, very difficult for them to do that because it's such a contaminating type of a teaching and a philosophy, and they think that they've achieved the ultimate goal of life. Someone who thinks they've got the PhD of all PhDs, and they won't listen to anybody. They think they can't be educated by anyone or anything. Yes, so that's very dangerous. I had an experience with that actually, and it's really true. So you have to be careful. I was at a friend's house and in Bournemouth, and he had on his bookshelf, he was like a yoga practitioner person, and he had some guru in London, he told me. I didn't know much about him or what the path it was he was following, but he was just like a friend, Anyway, one day I was at his house and he was doing something in the kitchen. I was browsing through his bookshelf and I came across this book, Shankaracharya. It might have been Shariraka Bhashya, his commentary on Gita, or I can't remember, or
Vedanta.
Or it could have been Vivek Chudamani, that's a famous book by him. I don't remember the book, but it was an old edition, Indian printing, looks like it was from the 20s or 30s, So I just opened it and I wasn't really even taking it in. I was just like reading some of the words, and all of a sudden I began to feel really bad, like really disturbed, the only way I could describe it was, like a mirror, if you smash a mirror or pane of glass into like 100,000 pieces, felt like that, Oh my God. And I just ran out of his house and I ran to my flat. It was about a few blocks away down the street. And I went in and I just got the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I was looking up, Mahaprabhu with the Mayavadi sannyasis, preaching to them, and I was reading it and praying and saying, and then slowly, like it came back together, like the glass just came back into one whole, So that was like a lesson, and that was just reading, wasn't even like associating with someone personally, like, you know. But so I didn't actually go around there again after that, because so he's saying, you know, the 6 philosophical theses, right? Gautama, you know, Mimamsaka, Sankhya, Nyaya, logic, etc. That's in the Search Sri Krishna, Reality the Beautiful. There's one chapter called The 6 Philosophies of India. You can read about it there. But all of them are not not directly devotional, though they have some element of devotion, so-called devotion in them. But in his commentary, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says they lead only to 2 places. One is increased material enjoyment in higher planes of life, higher planets, you know, higher dimensions of existence. Sense gratification in a very, very subtle form, much more than you could get in this life. Or they lead to dissolution in the Brahma Jyoti. Prakriti Nirvana or Brahma Nirvana, similar. Okay, but they don't give devotion to you, because unless devotion to the Lord is eternal, devotion, bhakti by definition, means eternal. You can't separate it. There's no such thing as temporary devotion. Like worshipping a deity and then you become merged with the deity, or you become the deity, and you can throw the deity in the river because you become that. That's their idea, right, of devotion. But devotion means eternal. There's no beginning or no end. It's an eternal flow. You know, as of in the reality, that is what is happening. That's what's going on. There's a flow of devotion. We talk about the Rupanuga Dhara, right, the current of devotion coming down. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, you know, I respect these saints and rishis. They've given some philosophy to the world, yes, to help people in a certain way and a certain level. But for me, I offer my respect to them from far distance, you know. But the lotus feet of your pure devotee, that is my shelter, my only shelter. So, but sometimes, you know, devotees, they have to study these different texts, you know, for preaching purposes. But also that's best to do that under guidance or with permission. Like Jiva Goswami did that. He studied intensively these different things, you know, but to show the superiority, ultimately, of Vaishnava Dharma. Otherwise somebody could be deviated by that, yeah. So then Tapan Mishra is saying, he's begging the Lord, as long as he stays in Varanasi, please do not accept any invitation other than mine. It's rather selfish, don't you think? So many devotees, well, not so many, there were some, of course, must be. Even though he had not made such a plan, the Lord remained for 10 days at Varanasi, being obligated by the requests of his 2 servants. So then, we won't go on to that, but then it goes on to the whole story of the great leader of the Mayavadi Sannyasis, Prakashananda Saraswati. And he was teaching so-called Vedanta in Benares with this big group, and he was criticizing Mahaprabhu, and the devotees came to hear of it, and they were very upset, you know. And he was saying, oh, this young man, you know, he took sannyas at a very young age. Not only that, it was also wasn't in the highest of lineages, you know, the Bharati Sampradaya, right? There's 108 sannyas names, and the first 8 of them are considered top class, best class, like Aranya, Tirtha, Saraswati, etc. And, you know, Bharati, that's down the list somewhere, you know. So he was like that, critical, and thinking he was a sentimentalist, you know, just dancing and chanting and singing, and all these people following him, and he's making a disturbance, he felt, in Varanasi, especially very serious, study, very serious, very young. So devotees were very upset, and they went to Mahaprabhu and told him, and so Mahaprabhu agreed to meet him. Basically, not because he wanted to meet him or even talk to him or even defeat him in philosophy, but for the sake of his devotees, because they were upset, So for them, he went there, and that's a story. They had a meeting, and it was wonderful. They were very respectful of the Lord, but he asked, Prakrishna asked him, why are you doing this, and so forth. And he said, Mahaprabhu gave a very nice, he could have said a big philosophical explanation about why he was chanting Hare Krishna, but he went to a very simple point. He said, well, when I went to my guru, and he saw that I wasn't very clever, and I couldn't really understand much philosophy, he said, look, I'm giving you this mantra, you just chant this mantra, and you'll get everything you need. So I did that, and after that, I just became like a madman. I don't know what came over me, but I can't help myself. And when I chant, I go into this ecstasy, and this happens, and this happens. So he told like that. Generally, devotees, they don't like to argue or debate with people, particularly, the Mayavadis, because very often they won't listen. It's just whatever you say, generally their mood will be like this. They say, yes, what you say is very good, but in the end it's all one anyway. So it's okay what you're saying for the time being, worship Krishna, devotional service, but in the end it's all one. That's just, they're sticking with that, The one devotee, when he was giving classes, and he used to call it the slippery soap in the bathroom philosophy. So you can't catch it, They're always, they won't accept the points or anything, but anyway, later on, Prakashananda, in that initial meeting, he was quite impressed, and he had such a big, high position, had all these students and everything. But something happened and changed in his heart, And after a few days, he came out and he was looking for Mahaprabhu, and he met Lord Chaitanya walking in the street. This time he was, I don't know if any people were there, but he was kind of more on his own, And he just fell on his feet, and he said, please, bless me, he said, I thought I was sitting on the big chair of the Acharya, and everyone's worshipping me as like a person of great knowledge and having so much wealth. But actually, now I understand I've got nothing, and you've got everything. Please bless me. And Mahaprabhu blessed him and gave him Hare Krishna mantra. They say he initiated him like that. But after that, we don't hear anything about him, where he went or what he did. It doesn't matter, because that was enough, right? Yeah, so finish there. Oh, thank you. I'll put that in just in case. Continue with it. Jai Grantaraj Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Oh, we're supposed to chant, do we?
As you like.
Well, no, don't have to do that. Hare Krishna.
Is this running here from London? This need to be turned.
Yes, I'll turn it on.
Nice to see you, Maharaj. I just got back from Ireland.
That's right. I remember I heard the whole story where Kalindi was there, right? Or she wasn't there when you were there.
Kalindi? No, I didn't read it.
Okay.
Kalindi. No.
Okay, so when did you get back?
Just 2 days ago. I got here on Tuesday night.
Right. And you're here for the duration of...
Just till this coming Tuesday.
Well, this lesson, do you think, is over?
Yeah.